it's just another bad day. Dark feelings are back, assaulting your heart with a panic attack. There ain't no shame in feeling depressed. You need to sit down and talk, son, get it off your chest. It's just another bad day. Dark feelings.
Hello everybody, welcome to an extra Andy's Man Club podcast for you this evening. Thank you to those of you that have been joining us and getting involved and sharing and liking and what have you with the regular podcasts that myself and Luke and Neil has been involved with those as well. We've decided that we're going to look at doing a little bit of an extra series just over the next couple of weeks because quite a number of our clubs have anniversary celebrations and things like that where they would normally mark it with a little bit of a get-together or a celebration of the lads in their area and a party and things like that. But obviously, under the current restrictions and what have you, we're not able to do that. So we've said that we'll get behind the lads and we'll do their own little extra podcast. Tonight, we're really fortunate to be joined by Craig from our Plymouth club. Plymouth celebrating their year anniversary this year. Isn't that right, Craig? This week, sorry.
Yes, mate. Wednesday the 13th. Doesn't seem like it's been a year that we were sort of visiting the venue just over a year ago and getting everything ready for May 2019. It's certainly crept up, but also it's been at the back of my mind the last few weeks. And as you said, like without everything going on, we would have been doing a celebration or a big event to sort of mark that year. But at the moment, the sort of safety of everyone is more important.
Definitely. Obviously, it's the last few weeks of the year not been ideal, but you know, just to talk through that, you've obviously been doing the online sessions for the last few weeks. How have those been going?
Yeah, I mean, we were quite lucky in that we were one of the pilot groups, so we sort of trialled it very early on. I was involved with the trialing as well from with yourself and the other facilitators. So I think quite early on, our guys, we've probably got a regular core of guys of probably 12 to 15 who jump on each week. They've really bought into it straight away. There's a few that for their own reasons won't engage, but are still sort of active on our page and our closed chat. So we sort of in regular contact. We know that they're okay.
Facilitator catch up last night on the sort of the reasons behind that, didn't we? We sent out a little bit of feedback, and the stuff that we've had back's been encouraging. It's people sort of saying that the reasons they can't get on is because they can't find the privacy in the house, or you know, they're not massive technologically advanced minds, and they're not down for that sort of thing, which is completely fair enough. And those are things that within the current constraints or experience we can't really control. But yeah, you touched there obviously on. Just over a year ago, obviously, I came down to the lovely part of the world down in Devon, and I joined the Newton Abbot group back when it was at Adam's Restaurant before the move to Coffee One. And then the day after, we went and looked around a load of venues in Plymouth, didn't we? Just obviously a few weeks ago, we had Adam and Chris on the podcast themselves, and they were saying that they have you as what they see as one of the success stories of that Newton Abbot club. Just tell us a little bit about your own journey with Andy's Man Club, if you can, Craig, please.
Yeah, well, as you probably tell from the accent, I'm not from Devon originally. So I knew about Andy's Man Club sort of 2 or 3 years ago through social media while I was back living in the Midlands. At that time, there was no club sort of around that space, but however, at that time, it probably wasn't something that I needed. But I did keep up to date with all the pages and sort of followed the journey of Andy's Man Club. Fast forward to summer 2018, I'd moved down to Devon for work, and a lot of stuff happened over that summer in my personal life, which meant that I went from where I previously was to sort of rock bottom. At that point, I found out sort of by happen chance and seeing on social media that the Newton Abbot group was opening that Monday. So it sort of fit together quite nicely that I needed that support, and the club in Newton Abbot was launching in that venue. Don't really remember much of the drive there or the drive back. For those that may not know, Plymouth to Newton Abbot is about a 45-minute drive. It doesn't look that far on the map, but it's about a 45-minute drive there and 45-minute back. So I went there. Didn't really know what to expect. Met Chris at the door, huge giant of a man. And we're sort of welcomed in, got a drink, and sort of proceeded just to sort of break down during that meeting that evening. And Adam and Chris have been quite vocal that they were quite worried that I wouldn't be around the following week to be back for week 2. Thankfully, I was. And over those few weeks, kept going back, kept attending AMC, kept talking, and a real brotherhood and a real support network at a time where my support network was 200 miles away, with family and friends. And then come to early 2019, I was in a better place in myself, and supported the Newton Abbott group with stepping in on some occasions where facilitators weren't maybe available, offering my experience to new members and to relatively new members. And then it came out that there was an opportunity to open up a club in Plymouth, which would sort of tick my box of saving me a 45-minute journey every week, but also being able to support the guys in the Plymouth area.
Yeah, definitely, and that's a lot of people's AMC story, isn't it? But obviously quite emotive there. That like I say, Chris and Adam, I think, said it on our podcast a few weeks ago that they, were, as you say, vocal there about the fact that they weren't expecting you to walk back through that door the following week. They thought that you were at such a low ebb, but now look at you in a position where you have a club down in Plymouth, and the numbers of guys that are walking through that door, as Andy's Man Club are not a stats related organisation. With we look at numbers of guys that come through the door because it's the only measurable we have, really. But that's been a really popular club, hasn't it? And it's been really well received in Plymouth.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think at the point where the meeting stopped, in a physical sense, we were around about 860 men that had attended, and we would have hit that. As you say, we're not numbers orientated, but we would have hit 1,000 men by the time of this week of our 1 year birthday. But ultimately, whether we have one man through the door or 35 men through the door, we're still there. And I think the online group, for the guys that have utilised it every single week, I think they would be the first to sort of say how it's helped them, but also the physical meetings as well. We've seen guys. I mean, one of our facilitators actually came to group week 2 because he needed it at that time, and is now one of our team of facilitators.
Class, yeah, and I think Plymouth sticks long in the memory of the guys that were on the tour as well. We got down there late, obviously. All best laid plans we put out. I think that we were expecting to land in Plymouth around 9 p.m, weren't we? And as I think realistically we were expecting that we were going to be later than that, but I don't think we quite expected that we were going to roll into town about 11:30, 11:45, which we did. And the amount of people that were out on the street, and we put a banner up down by the harbour, didn't we? And stickers on the on various different bits and things like that. They were still there up until just a couple of days ago, weeks ago, weren't they? And that turnout was phenomenal, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was sort of sat here on the Saturday, sort of keeping an eye on sort of where the coach was, and sort of keeping our guys up to date, because our plan, like you said, was to meet on the Barbican down by the seafront at sort of 8:30, sort of have some food, have a drink, and then meet the bus when it arrived at 9:30. And as you say, it arrived at about 11:45. I remember running down to meet the bus and jump on it to sort of direct the bus because of all the roadworks that were going on around the harbour. And then, like you say, when the guys got off, I think it gave the guys that have been on that coach for sort of 12, 14 hours, I think it gave them a real lift to see 15 to 20 people there, all decked out in AMC gear, all banging the drum for AMC. And like I said, that banner, I was doing a walk every month on that route, and the banner up until probably March was still, and I think it was only gone in March because they were repainting the banners on the harbour. But I think up until then, every month we'd walk past, like, oh, the banner's still there. So I mean, and the people of Plymouth have been absolutely fantastic. I mean, we were quite lucky because at the end of January we took part in the shopping centre's wellness week.
Yeah.
So we were given the opportunity to have a table and stall and have the day in the centre. And the engagement we had with the general public on that day, of all genders, all ages, was absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, definitely. And the support hasn't stopped there. I mean, we're fortunate as far as Andy's Man Club's concerned that we have 28 phenomenal venues that all give their time and space to us on a Monday evening for free. And again, I know that that's happened down on Mutley Plain there, hasn't it? That the guys down there have really looked after us. And you touched there, obviously, as well on the sort of boost that the people of Plymouth gave to us guys on that coach. And yeah, like I say, I don't think we would fully. I think if we'd have got down there and met a couple of facilitators, we'd have been buzzing. But to, like you say, to see 25, 30 people was absolutely phenomenal. Now, we're not going to talk for too much longer, Craig, because obviously we are going to cut in a little video that you guys have made down there as well to hear from some of the guys and their journey from walking through the doors of AMC, and obviously it being the toughest step to take. We know that. But, you know, just to sort of say, have you got any sort of thoughts or feelings or anything else that you want to share from Plymouth's first year of AMC?
No, I think I think myself and the facilitators probably had expectations of how the club would run, and I think even our expectations have been blown apart, really. As I say, we had a meeting last night, and one of the guys during the meeting, he got to one of the questions, and his first thing out of his mouth before he sort of gave his answer was that he could feel a real togetherness on that call and a real sense of love on that call for each other. And it's been a real brotherhood. We walked in back in May, a group that didn't know each other, and we've had guys come, we've had guys go because they've come to the end of their journey and they're now in a better place, or it's not for them. But the guys that are still there, the guys that still engage each day with each other, are more than strangers, more than friends. We're now sort of arm in arm as brothers, and the constant support really fills me with joy that on a Monday night when we finish, I come off with a lot of warmth in my body, and my brain doesn't stop for a couple of hours. So Monday night, it strangely is the night that I probably struggle to sleep, but in a positive way.
Yeah, no, I agree with it. It's interesting as well that obviously you've mentioned a word that gets used quite a lot in Andy's Man Club, the brotherhood, and that's something that's clear to see exists throughout. I mean, it exists within the facilitator team. A few months ago, we all got together at the hotel in Huddersfield, and you know, there was a togetherness there. There's been a huge togetherness online, but it's just phenomenal, isn't it? There's something that started from, you know, obviously the tragedy surrounding Andy Roberts to now have brought together so many people across the country is phenomenal.
Yeah, it doesn't.
It's spread from Halifax down to Plymouth, and obviously as far north as Scotland and what have you. It's a machine, isn't it? It's a juggernaut.
It feels a lot longer ago than the end of February when we're in the hotel in Halifax. It does feel like
it does.
It feels like about 6 months ago. Again, one of our, I mean, I shared it on our page this morning. One of our guys said something last night on the chat, and it really resonated with me for what AMC is all about. And it was a quote from Rudyard Kipling, and it was, "The strength of the wolf is in the pack, and the strength of the pack is in the wolf."
Definitely.
I think that really, really resonated with me last night, and it really hit home of how much we're all across the country, like you say, from Perth up down to Plymouth, but we're all doing it for the same reason. We all support each other on a Monday night and throughout the week for exactly the same reason, because it's all about one man coming through the door on a Monday night, whether he's a new guy, whether he's been every week, and suddenly one week his world's dropped out from under him. We'll be there every single Monday.
Certainly will. Well, I think that's a great time to bring in those lads from Plymouth now, talking about their own little Andy's Man Club journey.
Just wanted to jump on with a few of our guys from the club to look at commemorating our club turning 1 year old this week. So just want to catch up with a few of the guys that have utilised the group in that year, sort of discuss their background, how they got involved with Andy's Man Club, and how that's helped them over the last year. So we've got Jonathan, David, Richard, John and Chris on the chat tonight. So chaps, I'll go through the questions that we were going to cover off, and we'll start with Jonathan. So how did you first hear of Andy's Man Club?
I first heard of Andy's Man Club. Okay, at the start of this year, things took a bit of a nosedive, shall we say, for me within my life. I was struggling quite a bit with various bits and pieces, and it was actually something suggested by my wife. She'd seen a notice up on Facebook and things just popped up in her newsfeed. she tagged me in it and said, you know, you might want to kind of give these guys a bit of a go. So did the typical man thing, stewed it over in my head for a short while. Kind of did the usual bravado stuff of, nah, I don't need that, you know, don't need all this kind of, you know, sit around and chat, and they're all going to look at me a bit weird and all this, you know. And but yeah, so that was it. I kind of held my nose, took the dive. I'm very glad I did.
Right, David, what about you, mate?
So it was last September. I had quite a few bad things going on. My relationship with my now ex-partner broke down, and because I couldn't stay at hers anymore, there was a lot of like problems going on between me and her. So I went and stayed at my sister's, and my sister, who is a social worker, had told me about Andy's Man Club in Newton Abbot, but by the time it came round to me going, I was sort of between Newton Abbot and Plymouth a lot, so I was more down in Plymouth because I've got kids, and so I decided to start. So I went online and I did my research just to see, first of all, if there was an Andy's Man Club in Plymouth, which I found out that there was. So yeah, I decided to make the decision to walk through the door, and haven't looked back.
Well, Richard.
Started coming Andy's Man Club in June last year, but before that, before the previous Christmas, I was struggling for quite a while, but I was keeping it to myself, and I wasn't, you know, very much keeping it to myself, which wasn't doing me any good, thinking it over a lot, to the point where I decided I had to do something. So managed to ring Mind after putting it off consistently. I decided to ring them 5 minutes before they shut, and thinking if they don't pick up, you know, it doesn't matter, leave it to another day. One day they did actually pick up. In just a short conversation, I think we both clicked that I needed to do something else, which they informed me about Headspace Cath in Plymouth. I put that off for a few months until 3 days after my 40th birthday in February. I ended up going up there for the first time. And after space for a few months, I went there a number of times, until one visit I went up there and they mentioned about Andy's Man Club had opened in Plymouth and suggested that I should give it a try. And after, you know, finally taking the step to go to Headspace, it was, you know, having that experience behind me, it was made that decision to go to Andy's Man Club a lot easier. And yeah, I haven't looked back since, really. Been going consistently ever since.
Oh, cheers, mate. John, how about you, mate?
It all started February 2019. Maybe before that. I took some time off work. I think, yeah, I'd been off work for 9 months with mental health. Me and my partner were struggling to find a place bigger for the kids. Yeah, so I was going through that and going through trying to cope at work. Then eventually we moved to Motley, and we were looking for a place to put the kids into nursery, or just anywhere like we could take the kids in the mornings. And down the road from me, the church picked up a leaflet with Andy's Man Club written on it, read it, saw that it was just around the corner, and thought, yeah, I'll go. Nobody needed to convince me to go. I just sort of convinced myself to go. And that was it, really. I showed up, wasn't nervous. I mean, maybe a little bit, but I knew that I'd done what I needed to do, and then I was just going to let it go from there. And yeah,
Well done, mate. And Chris?
Went through some mad situations for years. After kind of like multiple suicide attempts and self-harm and stuff. I ended up coming to Plymouth in 2017 from London, and it's went into it. But the reason why I come to Plymouth originally was through alcohol and drug addiction at the time, and so I went through a residential treatment centre and basically stayed there. Although that was there, it's like my mental health started, just as I thought it was getting better, it took a massive battering again, and it kind of brought me a bit back down to my knees again. And I ended up finding one of the leaflets. I think it was in Derriford Hospital at the time, and I was picked it up. I was just reading it, and to be honest, I put it off for a few months because I tried to kind of deal with everything and tried to be the strong man, and that nothing's wrong with me. I don't need surveillance, And it wasn't until I eventually kind of broke down and ended up multiple suicidal ideation and just really bad. Like I couldn't control emotions. Just felt I was no good to society, but throughout the time I was always negative. And when I had the courage to actually get a hold of ANDYSMANCLUB, it was actually through the main Facebook page at the time. I thought to myself that I felt weak when I done it, to be honest, at the start. And I think once I kind of put a message up there, and then I think it was you, Craig, that messaged me back at the time and was just talking to me about it, seeing how everything was going. And then, yeah, I think for me that was a big major step for me, because I've always tried to deal with everything myself, and I've always hid it. I've always kept it back, and I've never reached out for that type of support in order to deal with it. So that's the first time I've done that. So it did feel a bit weird. Like I felt just right down, and I actually started coming to ANDYSMANCLUB in September last year. Basically, I brought along by one of the guys in the meeting, and since that day, I could just see it, like everybody just being like so truthful. There's identification, and there's a massive amount of support that I've noticed throughout the time I've been there. And so when I came in September, first time I went there, I was a bit iffy, like thinking, is this for me or not? But after some time to come in, I've actually started to see that we've all become like it's more of a brotherhood in here at the time, and it's like we're all help and support each other as much as we possibly can. And to be honest, I've never looked back.
I just realised actually I've got you guys, and I haven't really opened up myself, have I? And sort of said about how I got involved with ANDYSMANCLUB. I should have taken the lead on that one. For me, I moved into Plymouth in 2018 now. Yeah, 2008, 2 years ago, strangely enough. And over that summer, as the sort of April 2018 for work, over that summer, a lot of stuff happened in my personal life. So, meaning I was in a position where I had no real support network, and needing somewhere to get out what was going on inside my own head. So I, at that time, found out about the Newton Abbot group opening up and went along there. And some of you guys haven't really looked back, and obviously back in January, February last year, I was sort of asked and approached whether I would look to open up an ANDYSMANCLUB down in Plymouth, obviously with a big need down there. So I absolutely jumped at the chance. Second question, how did you feel when you attended AMC for the first time? For me, bricking it, absolutely bricking it. So I don't really remember heading up to Newton Abbot that night. I don't even really remember driving back. But I sort of got to the door and realised there was no real way back of getting out of it. Walked through the door and was met by a lumbering giant of a man, Chris from Newton Abbot, who sort of shook my hand and welcomed me in and got me a cup of tea and some biscuits. And then sort of over the night, my sort of nervousness went away, and went every week. And I think I've missed probably 2 or 3 in the last 2 years due to not being in the area. Jonathan?
Yeah, I'd undernard and tossed it over my head. Like I say, I'd hit a real low point in my life. been nearly a year since my mum had gone. My marriage had subsequently failed, so I kind of lost that house, home, and everything that goes along with it. So at that point, I was feeling pretty damn low. And after kind of taking the advice of maybe going along, I jumped in the car and headed towards our meet spot. And I remember kind of getting out of the car and just walking along that street, and my heart was pounding. It was one of the. It seems strange, doesn't it, that you can walk. You think, well, it's just a bunch of guys. If it was like your mates meeting up in a pub for a general beer, your heart wouldn't be pounding like that. But my heart was going 19 to the dozen, and I got to the crossing, and I nearly turned around and walked away. I thought, no, I can't do this. And I got across the crossing, and that's when I met Andy, your counterpart, sir. And he, as soon as he saw me, he was like, "Looking for Andy's Man Club?" I was like, "Yeah." I got it tattooed on my head, kind of thing. And he said, "Oh, brilliant! First time? Yeah." He's like, "Come on, let's get you in and get you a cup of tea." And after that, it was almost like he'd scooped me up, and it just kind of carried me almost, like, in. And as soon as I walked in, all the guys there, hi, etc., and pouring a cup of coffee and getting comfortable, and that was it. It was just like all of a sudden, all that initial fear and everything like that. There was still some trepidation of, like, how's it going to pan out and what am I going to say? But all that horrible kind of fear and, oh God, what's going to happen? What's it going to be like? Just dissipated. It's always had that same warm feeling every time I walk in and see the guys, and I hope that feeling never goes away.
Brilliant, mate. David.
So I had to sort of build myself up for a couple of weeks before I actually came in. But like Jonathan was saying, I was walking along, like, I parked the car. I managed to build up the courage to say, right, I'm going to go, I'm going to attend, I'm going to do this. But as I was walking, like, the closer I got, the heavier my feet started to feel. And it's like, oh no. And I was getting really nervous. My heart was pounding. And it was yourself, Craig, that was on the door, that asked me if I was looking for Andy's Man Club, and nervously I said yes. And you told me where to go. You sort of showed me the way in. And I came in. I still had a few doubts, because you hear of the might be negative stereotypes about, the support groups, and I didn't know how I felt about opening up and telling other guys my troubles, because I was thinking, well, maybe my troubles aren't as bad or as horrible as some other people's. But I went in, I sat down, I was too nervous to even get a hot drink. But no, the guys were really good, really friendly, really lovely. I did say a few things, and by the time, like, the break came, then I actually did work up the courage to get a hot drink. But then I had a general chat with some of the guys there, and a bunch of really nice guys, very supportive, very helpful, and I haven't looked back. The support is still there, even with the online groups. But yeah,
Chris.
First time I actually came there, to be honest, I had no idea what to expect or anything. I just came along, but literally my head at the ground, dragging my feet across the floor, and then walked into a room and just see loads of people. I was a bit itchy blown away by the amount of people that were there, and but then it's like, got told to go and make myself, like, a hot drink, and I just looked. I didn't know what quite to do. I just looked at everybody, and I was like, no, I just ended up sitting down. So I ended up sitting down, and I said that my head just pointing down, like, just not really moving, just my feet were shaking a little bit, and I was a bit of a wreck back then when I first come in, and it's like, we was just sitting there, and when the ball was going around, people were introducing themselves, and so I was a bit like, whoa, okay. I didn't want to say nothing at all, but as we went around, I heard other people's situations, and it literally touched me a bit from what I heard that first time. And then the ball came back round to me. I think it was like question 3 at the time, and everyone got off your chest. I was thinking, yeah, I was sitting there holding the ball, literally just squeezing it. But then I ended up coming out with stuff. I have no idea what. I have no idea if it made any sense of at the time. And I know, Rich was saying, I started off speaking a bit, and then I was jumping from one thing to another, and then backwards. So I think it was slightly a bit confusing, but I really couldn't even remember too much of it. But I think after when when it comes to the break, to be honest, I was thinking, do I do a runner or what? Because I was just so itchy and nervous. Anxiety was through the roof. But after the break, it came back, sat back down, and then I was still a bit mental. I just thought to myself originally, nothing could fix me, nothing could help me. There's no support. I have nothing, and then I think since after speaking to a few people, getting to know them and identifying with other people, and it's literally changed my whole kind of perspective, and it made me realise in a way. After that first meeting, when I got back home, I was thinking I was blown away. I was just like, whoa. But I don't know what emotion was, but I just felt a bit all squashed up really, and trying to digest everything. And yeah, but I think after that as well, I'm actually glad I kind of stuck around and didn't just do a runner after the first meeting, to be honest, because when I've gone into types of meetings back home in London, I just look and I just literally get up, leave halfway through, and I'm not ever seen again. And so it must have been when I said this first meeting, I think that's what made me keep coming back to him, and just got to know so many people, made some good friends there as well, and it's actually really helped. It's really helped massively. I'm just glad I came back after that first meeting and not judge the book by its cover, really. And because I didn't know what to expect. I remember just sitting in a corner, just thinking, just literally all cold up, I'm thinking, what am I doing here? But I'm glad I kept coming back to them, and yeah, I'm glad I'm still around today, because I think without even going to that first meeting, I wouldn't have been here today, and I know that. And so in the first step, putting my feet through the door the first time, and it's kind of it's changed me, and I've just been forever grateful for that first meeting, to be honest.
Well done, mate. So the next one will be, how has coming along to AMC helped you? So for me, it's helped me a long while ago. It sort of got me back on track about 18 months ago before we set up Plymouth. But then since running Plymouth, it's sort of helped me as well, because it's given me the opportunity to give something back to the charity and the sort of group, and then obviously support the guys in Plymouth who need that platform to come and be able to sort of get some off the chest. Jonathan?
For me, certainly in the early days, it became almost a bolt hole for me. It was kind of like everything else in my life was rather chaotic and rather hectic. What I could control was rapidly diminishing, but it meant that every Monday night, no matter what else was going on in my life, there was that one thing, 7 p.m. Monday night, bam, Andy's Man Club. And I knew I could go there, meet up with you guys, and it became a real pivotal point. So where I was able to kind of come out of that with that feeling of, less weight on my shoulders, a clearer head and things like that, the ensuing almost panic, I suppose, of everything else that was going on in my life meant that when I came out of that, I was able to think clearer, piece things together a bit better, and put things a bit more into perspective. I mean, it does kind of, I remember Chris telling me one time, because I was sat there in the room, and for me it had been kind of a bit of a rough week, and I went through a few bits, thing, and it had been quite a rough week for a few of the other guys in that room, and I did feel initially that slight silliness almost, that I was getting stressed over what would be deemed a little bit maybe small fry compared to some of the other guys, and I said that out loud, and Chris really nicely kind of corrected me basically and said, "Oh no, we've all got our own battles. We've all got our own fights. No one man's problems is any greater than any others. If you need to vent and you need to talk about these issues, etc., then this is the place to do it. And it doesn't matter that you feel that other people's problems are a thing. It's one man, and that's the whole point of it. So I think for me, it's been that pressure release for me. It's that pressure release valve, and it just allows me to kind of come back to where I need to be and where I should be. And even on the good weeks, it's great to be able to come along and see everyone, etc., and lend an ear to the other guys that are having a hard week and help them out too. And I think that for me, that's what it's all about, and that's why I keep coming back.
Right, David.
So, for me, it's been a real good support, because when I started coming, I wanted to kill myself. I had got myself into that place mentally where I was ready to die. I didn't care, that was it. I decided that it was time to end my life. And although nervously I came in, I started chatting, and then over the course of the weeks I opened up, and the advice and the support that the other guys have given, both by coming to the meetings and also in the group chat that we've got on Facebook, has been really helpful, because there have been a couple of times where I've had relapses and I've been in absolute floods of tears and in a really low point, and then just, even though it wasn't a Monday, I've put a message out there to say, I'm struggling, guys, and true to form, all the guys have just sort of rallied around, messages of support, advice, guidance. So that has really helped me. And because there have been a few weeks where I felt like I haven't been able to contribute much, but I've sort of got my own personal saying now, for especially other guys, if they think that what they've got to say is irrelevant. It's no man's problems are more important than someone else's. We all have our own demons. We all fight in our own battles. And because, as I said, the group is so supportive, there's nothing that I look forward to more in the week than the weekly Andy's Man Club meetings, because good bunch of guys, and I have started to make a nice solid group of friends who I know that will be there for me. And as I said on the meeting on Monday to the guys that I was chatting to, that knowing that I've got that support and I've got Andy's Man Club sort of behind me, and that these guys have actually genuinely got my back no matter what happens.
Well, Rich.
From the very beginning, when I knew I needed to look to do something, and it's always been in my mind for me personally to find somewhere a neutral place to open up. That was very, very important to me personally, and something non-clinical as well, because that's two things that really appealed to me about Headspace to begin with, and then Andy's Man Club. For a few personal reasons, I didn't really the thought of going down the other route was something I really didn't want to do, but I knew I needed to do something. I remember early on going and trying to open up when there's so much mind, so busy, so much going on, and you're almost having to try and pluck something out to start talking about, or the great thing of having people in the room with you, no matter how, like the difference in age or backgrounds or like what they do for jobs or anything, there's always something at some point that you can relate to, even if it's just one sentence and what they're saying, and that really helps and can help like focus me what I'm going to talk about, and gives me building blocks somewhere to start.
Yes, mate. Chris?
I've had a massive kind of impact on my life since I came in. It's like from holding on to all the problems and literally breaking down and becoming that nervous, anxious, like a curled up person who has never had basically anybody to open up to, anyone to speak to in my life. Tried numerous counsellors and that in the past, but nothing of that even worked. And it's like from coming into AMC, it's like from being that kind of nervous wreck that I was at the start, and always just thinking I'm alone. I was on my own. No one understands me. So it's a lot of self-hatred and self-beating, because that's all I've done my entire life. And coming through, so yeah, the first step through the first meeting, that first step through the door, it felt very weird, and it was a bit overwhelming, but basically from that first day, it's kind of helped me and made me realise that there are actually people who care, support, and yeah, regardless that we've all our problems and that, but at every meeting I go to, every AMC meeting, it's like guaranteed there's always that one person that I could identify with, guaranteed in a room, you know what I mean? Who might have slightly backgrounds, but will come along with the same kind of story, And yeah, that's something that's kind of stuck with me over time, and now it's kind of changed me from the person I was when I walked into who I am today. It's changed me massively, and it's given me that more hope that there is a life to live, rather than just thinking, just cut it off and finish my life. I made me realise that there is more to life, that there is people out there who can be supportive, or that you can talk to, and that's something I've never had in my life, and that's why I've always kind of held it in, beat myself up over the years, just giving into crazy thoughts. But it's from the way everything's from what's happened to me from just being there is to me, I would say, yeah, it's like a miracle, you know what I mean? And it's I never thought anything like this would ever help me or would even benefit me. I never thought it, because I've never heard of anything like this. And in London, I've been in mental institutions and hospitals, psychiatrists, and that, and none of that's even worked. And when I first came in, I thought it's just going to be the same. But yeah, I was wrong, and just to speak openly to people, it's helped me, and it's something I've never done, and just be able and knowing that there is the support.
John,
just great place to just, if you've had a crappy week, to just look forward to going to. It gets me out. In a way, it's helped me to just be more positive, not to overthink too much, and it's inspired me to get out more, which is what I needed.
how have you found the move from the physical meets, obviously with everything going on, to still having a platform online, Jonathan?
I work in IT for a living. You can probably tell by my devilish good looks, but Yeah, I honestly, because I see it day in day out, etc., and the way that this worked, I was quite skeptical, because part of Andy's Man Club is that physical interaction between people, and it's that physical interaction between guys being able to be in that same room and talk. And I'm very happy to say I was wrong, completely wrong. The fact that we can still see each other if you want to, you don't have to have your camera on. If you are feeling like you just want to shut yourself away a bit and have minimal interaction, you can still do that. But it's still that camaraderie that's there. There's still that closeness that's between us guys there, and you see it every Monday night. Even in the break times where we all turn the mics on and the conversation takes a definite wild tangent. You you definitely see it, and yeah, it's been really, really good. Facilitators have kept the structure fantastic. Made sure that the rules are abided by, etc., and it works absolutely brilliantly.
David?
So for one, I wasn't skeptical, because I was thinking that, yes, it's a good idea, but we've actually got something, and we've still got a platform and the ability to still, although we're in our own homes, but there's still that sense of togetherness that we got. And when we're chatting and each guy's going for their turn as if it was like a normal group night where you're passing the ball to each other. Yeah, I really like the fact that one person mutes the mic and then it gives that person a chance to talk. And then also as well, I find it really good because you're giving that person the time to talk, but then using the chat function, being able to offer messages of support. And whilst the guy's talking, and then reading them, because I've had it where I've sort of delivered my piece, I've said what I've had to say, and then going through for messages of advice and support as well has been really good, because then it felt like I was able to say everything and then answer people in my own time, or then so it really limited the need for like crosstalk, so it made the meetings run more smoothly and more like efficiently without all the unnecessary interruptions.
Rich?
I've never really been one for video chat and stuff like that. It's always been something I've never been very comfortable with, talking on the phone or but these last couple of months, I've been able to get used to doing the video chat, and I must admit it does work really well. It took a bit of getting used to, getting up to speed to all the features on the app and stuff. But then 3 weeks, I think, got it all sussed. Or free online meetings. It didn't take 3 weeks, but just 3 online meetings. But I must admit, I've taken to it. It's it's slightly different. It's definitely really helpful to get stuff off my chest.
Chris, how have you found it, mate?
Originally, I was feeling a bit skeptical around it. I didn't quite know how it was going to work originally. I'm a technology freak, so I know quite a lot about IT and basics and stuff, So I had no worries about that. As I said, I do miss that a physical interaction, like just being able to sit in a room with people. Yeah, I do miss it, but okay, because circumstances. But no. But I'm just grateful, as Jonathan said, that just how well the facilitators have managed to keep the whole thing together, keep the structure, keep the routine going, and been able to hold it all together. And that's not just one employment; it's AMC as a whole. So all around them.
And John?
Yeah, it's been brilliant, easy to fit in. I grew up with social media. When we're there, I was going to say, back in the day, like, I was a hugger, so I do miss the physical meetings for the hugs. So when I was younger, I used to go out with like a bunch of mates, and we're all huggers. So I kind of miss the physical meetings on that kind of side. But yeah, there's been no problems online. I grew up with social media. I'm used to it. I'd FaceTime my parents, family members all the time. I actually got a lot of family in Leicester, so I'm used to doing long distance, like FaceTimes and stuff. I know we all live in the same city, but yeah, it's just good that we got it. And it's kind of worked for everyone this year, given what's going on in that.
Right, so we'll finish the night like we do with a normal AMT with a quick fire question. Anyone want to fire out a good quick fire question to go round?
As Craig, you know what's coming, because I'm still interested in finding out because we split the group on Monday, what your hidden talent is. Because I've told you mine.
Okay, we'll go with that one. So, hidden talent. As I say, mine Monday was quite a bit of a letdown actually compared to John. So I'm hoping John will do his as well. Mine would probably be that I can do a decent impersonation of Donald Duck with a bit of. But that's probably about all I can do. So we're going to Jonathan.
Mine is the fact that many moons ago, when I succumbed to flu and I got so sick of daytime TV, I actually taught myself how to juggle using the old Ariel liquid tab, washing up things, which is quite good with some disastrous results because unfortunately sometimes they get wet and they dissolve and you end up throwing liquid everywhere. But yeah, so I taught myself how to juggle. So that was all good fun.
David.
Okay, so I I've got certificates in training up to professional standards for badminton, and I am also quite an adept sailor. I've got a few of my RYA qualifications.
Bro, Rich. Being able to unmute. He's been able to unmute one of them.
Well, something you guys won't know is used to play and go for our 6-side team and won quite a few trophies. So a bit different to my answer the other day when we had this question, but yeah, I'm quite good at taking one for the team and go. That's what I felt like sometimes, but that's a silly answer. This, but going along with the Donald Duck thing, I can. It sometimes sounds like a duck, but with the other end.
And Chris.
Isn't that? I don't even know. Yeah. Oh wow! I used to be a long distance runner, cross country and everything over the time. But that's before injuries and everything. But it's it's just a thing I love. But in goes with talent. I used to play semi-professional football at one point. Actually had a trials for Leighton Orient at one point. But yeah, balls didn't work. Got through the trials, but then everything just kind of so at the time I was actually quite a keen footballer, but these days it's just like no. But yeah, at the time, once I'm able to start running a bit again, then yeah, I'll be getting back into little 5-a-side tournaments over in goals and stuff. So yeah, so once I'm able to get my fitness back, yeah, quite a keen footballer at one point.
Cheers, mate. And John.
Rich, mute your mic.
All right, so you're all dying to hear it. I can do a dolphin. Ready?
That still makes me chuckle after Monday night. Yeah, mine's not anything near that. Thank you, chaps. It's been a bit of a long one, a bit longer than we probably expected, but I mean, it's good to hear your sort of backgrounds and your stories for coming along to Andy's Man Club. So we'll keep up touch during the week, and obviously we'll catch up again on Monday night. So thank you all. If you want to unmute and say goodbye to people, then we'll depart.
Yeah. Always a pleasure, gentlemen. Always a pleasure. Good to see you all.
See you later.
Well, To the duck and
There's
the
a
dolphin.
birds.
Take
I'll
care.
stop now.
Bye, Echo.
Bad day, dark feelings are back, assaulting your heart with a panic attack. There ain't no shame in feeling depressed. You need to sit down and talk, son, get it off your chest. It's just another bad day, dark feelings are back, assaulting your heart with a panic attack. There ain't no shame in feeling depressed. You need to sit down and talk, son, get it off your chest.